normal bat, probability, market price, dividend per share. Existing market price of equity share is 106, which is come 10% bonus debentures of rupees 6 each per share. I don't know who creates question like these. Majors X Finance Company Limited has offered the buyback of debentures at face value. Find out the expected return and variability of returns of equity shares. And number 1, advise whether the company should accept the buyback offer. Equity share cum debentures. Wow. Yes, how do you deal with this? The first part should be simple. Expected return and variability. How do you calculate variability?
We should have probability into return. तो उनका summation लेके करना.
Variability is calculated with
mean minus
उल्टा
return mean minus actual return minus
x minus x bar. मतलब we are basically going to calculate standard deviation, and that would give us variability. Now it should be simple. The current price is 106. If you remove the value of debenture of 6, the price of the stock becomes 100. Correct? 100 rupees stock will become 115, plus it will give you a dividend of 9. That means it will give you a dividend of 24. Total return of 24. 7 plus 5, it will give you a return of 12. 97 plus 3, it will remain as it is, return of 0. So you have expected return, you have 3 probabilities. Calculate the mean return and calculate the standard deviation. कर सकते हो? Or do you want to do it together? Try doing it on. Is there anything you're not clear with?
Sir, we have already multiplied the probability with the expected return.
Hmm.
And again, we are multiplying P with x minus x bar.
Yes. See, this is like mean. How do you calculate mean? If let's say it was a normal mean, you would have said a plus b plus c divided by 3.
In case of probabilities,
In case of probability, we multiply with p. Then when you calculate standard deviation, you will say summation of x minus x bar square divided by n.
yeah.
Again, you divide by n. Following this? Standard deviation formula is summation of x minus x bar square divided by n under root. Right? So when you calculated x bar, you divided the three values with n. And when you calculating standard deviation, you are again dividing it by n. So the same logic here.
एक्सपेक्टेड रिटर्न की कैसे 24% दिया है क्या वो क्वेश्चन में?
एक मिनट रुको, इसमें गलती हुआ है. This is not completely correct. 24 minus mean F4 200. This should have been x minus x bar, right? So it should be 24 minus 12. So this becomes 12. 12 minus 12 becomes 0. And 0 minus 12 becomes minus 12. And then you get value as 16.971. Is anything not clear?
एक्सपेक्टेड रिटर्न
कैसे आया 12%? देखो 24 इंटू 25 प्लस 12 इंटू 50 प्लस 0 इंटू 25 वेटेड एवरेज. सो 6 प्लस 6 प्लस 0 12.
24% जो लिया है ना, क्वेश्चन में दिया है या डिविडेंड डिवाइडेड बाय प्राइस?
नहीं, इसको हमने निकाला. देखो 115 was your market price, dividend was 9, so total return 24 as a ratio to 100. Why 100? Because 106 is the price, but 6 is for dividend. Sorry, 6 is for debenture, so share price 100. आया समझ में?
तो 24% कैसे आता है फिर 9 डिवाइडेड बाय
देखो 9 नहीं है.
डिविडेंड पर शेयर?
100 rupee per stock became 115. So 15 plus 9. So मैं यहाँ पे लिख देता हूँ. 15 is the capital appreciation plus 9 is the dividend that we received as a ratio to 100. यहाँ पे 7 is the capital appreciation plus 5 is the dividend that we received as a ratio to 100. Anything not clear, Karishma?
So we did multiply by probability x minus x
Which one?
in that one.
This one? Have we not? Yeah, we should be. Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. Let me just check my answer again one more time. E6 24 minus 12. So this is 12 into D6 25% into 100. Now it's correct. Yes. Hmm.
So this is the
So the formula of standard deviation is root of probability
Hmm.
into deviation square, right?
Hmm. Yes.
So in this case, we have taken the square, so this term comes out to be p square into the deviation square.
Hmm.
So when you take the root, it will be p into the deviation, not p into deviation square.
No. When you take total of a plus b plus c square under root, it doesn't give you a plus b plus c. A square plus b square plus c square under root is not equal to a plus b plus c. So which is not equal to this number.
No, the x
I
minus
understood what you're saying is, I'll just show you the formula. The formula, if you want to use probabilities, probability into x minus x bar
square.
square. I get your point. एक मिनट, we can cross check this method. एक मिनट रुको. Let me just delete some values and make them round figures. Be easier to compute. $24. What was the second value? 12. 12. Last one was 0. 24, 12, 0. Let's say if I assume this to be 1 by 3, 1 by 3 and 1 by 3. Okay. So let's calculate a mean now. This should be equal to
That last one is still at 25%. The probability.
so x minus x bar square multiplied with probability. Yeah, you're right. This will give us a wrong answer. 8 minus this number multiplied with third. Change the formatting. And then if you take square of this, .98 should be 179. So if I decide 24 minus 12, then take a square, 25 again, 50 again, 25 again. So mean comes out to be 6. X minus X bar comes out to be
8.48.
एक मिनट रुको. 24 minus 12, correct? Then raised to 2 multiplied with probability, and then we get 8.48. This is the correct answer. Yes. I guess what he pointed out, what we did originally, we calculated x minus x bar, and at this stage we multiplied with probability, and then we took square of the whole number. So when we took that square, it gave us probability into x minus x bar the whole square, whereas it should be, so what we did, we calculated p into x minus x bar, and then we took a square, and then we took under root, whereas it should be p into only the x minus x bar square under root. So which means this term which we had squared, it shouldn't have been squared. So in this case now we take x minus x bar, and then we'll take the square of x minus x bar, so 12 raised to 2, and then we multiply with probability, so this term doesn't get squared again, and then we take under root. Are we good to move here? Okay, next part now. Also advise whether to accept the buyback offer. So how do we decide? How do we decide whether we should accept the buyback offer? And it's buyback for what? Debentures. So based on what it can be decided whether that buyback of debenture should be accepted. Bolo. So write down. Decision on buyback of debentures. Decision on buyback of debentures. Point number 1. Company in all the three scenarios is paying a healthy amount of dividend. Company in all the three scenarios is paying a healthy amount of dividend. it clearly indicates that the company does not have any liquidity issues. It clearly indicates that company does not have any liquidity issues. Point 2. Bond valuation or bond value is decided based on current yield to maturity in the market. Based on current yield to maturity in the market. Therefore, investors should compare current YTM on a bond with similar risk return characteristics. Current YTM on a bond with similar risk return characteristic and coupon rate of 6%. Investors should compare a bond with similar risk return bond YTM with bond with similar risk return characteristics and coupon rate of 6%. And then point number 3, conclusion. Accept buyback offer. Accept buyback offer if accept a, yeah, that was correct. Accept ACCEPT, sorry. Accept buyback offer if current YTM is greater than coupon rate of 6%. So it was kind of a very
But from whose point of view? It's from investors' point
always invest. Accept means investor.
Bonds are issued by
Company.
and companies buyback.
Huh.
Company.
So whether as an investor would you accept the buyback offer from the company? Company does not have to accept the offer. Company will give the offer. An investor cannot give the offer.
Whether we have to tell that should company proceed with this or
वहाँ पर देखो whether to accept buyback offer. So acceptance का decision हमेशा investor के पास रहता है, company के पास नहीं. Yeah, to be honest, the question, the second part, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, only the dividend point, that's very strong. But anyways, if you want to buy back the bonds, it is always that case. I mean, if you want to sell, buying back bonds is nothing but puttable bond. Putting your bonds with the company. So you would do that only if you feel that is beneficial to me. And you would do that in a scenario where bond price in the market is lesser than the price at which you can put it. And then if the YTM in the market which is being offered is higher, then bond price would be lesser, and therefore we would accept the buyback. Are we good to move here? It killed too much of time today. Next one, question 11. Rights issue. Sorry? Question number 12. Question 12. Rights issue. ABC Limited shares are currently selling at rupees 13 per share. There are 10 lakh shares outstanding. The company is planning to raise 20 lakhs to finance a new project. required, what are the X right price of the shares and the value of the right if the firm offers one right share for every 2 shares held, firm offers one right share for every 4 shares held. How does the shareholder wealth change from 1 to 2? How does the right issue increases shareholders' wealth? What are rights issue?
Issue subsequent to first issue of
Yes. So which means if you already have 1 lakh shares and you want to again issue fresh set of shares, then we'll call it as right issue. Now, why does a right issue? So I'm sure you must have studied your section 81. 81, right? So why? No, it's preemptive right, but I'm not sure, it could be. So what was the point I was making? Yeah. So why do we have to always issue that? Why do we have to always issue those shares to the existing shareholder? Why not to new shareholders directly? What's the intuition behind it? If following my question, for example, let's say you people have purchased my shares, I want to issue new. Why there is a restriction on me that I have to issue the shares to you only? Why not to other investors? See, it works like this.
Perhaps it's fair for the investor who already invested in the company since
Mm-hmm. You say you're right, but see, there's a broader reason behind it. It works like this. Let's say currently there is 100 shares issued by a particular company, and there are 3 investors, A, B, and C. Okay, let's make 4 investors, A, B, C, D. All of them have 25 shares. Okay, now what A plus B plus C do is that they don't like D anymore. Okay, so they want to somehow kick him out. So they decide that we will issue another 100 shares. But now when this new 100 shares are being issued, they issue those shares, let's say, among themselves, 33.33, 33.33 and 33.33. What happens? Earlier, D had a stake of 25% in the company. Right after the issue, his stake will reduce to 12.5. If company don't like him further, they will still issue more shares and reduce his stake even further. Which means if you issue shares to other than existing shareholder, their proportionate stake in the company is reducing. And that's why the first right is always given to existing shareholder. After that, then if he declines, then that right would be passed on to other shareholders. Clear? So now typically the answer to this part will always be that a right issue does not affect any of the shareholders' wealth, because logically you're not doing any new business. It's not going to increase your market capitalization more than proportionately, so the wealth will remain constant for a shareholder, and that's what we want to prove in this question. Okay, so we'll solve this together. First we will get some basic data. One share for every 2 shares held. So this is particulars. This is 1 share for 2 shares, and this should be one share for every 4 shares held. Every 4 shares held. ठीक है. So first particular, number of outstanding shares as of now. Number of shares outstanding, 10 lakh and 10 lakh. Number of shares outstanding 10 lakh 10 lakh. Second, current market price per share is rupees 13 per share. Number of new shares to be issued. One share for every 2 shares sold. So this is going to be 10 lakh into rights ratio. Okay, so in this case this would be 10 lakh into 0.5. This would be 10 lakh into 0.25. Expected amount to be raised. So company needs 20 lakhs. Expected amount to be raised 20 lakhs and 20 lakhs. Issue price of new shares 4 and 8. Market capitalization pre rights issue market capitalization post rights issue 15 and 15. Number of shares post right. Value of right. Yes. Have you followed the logic? Let me start from the beginning. So number of shares were 1 million or 10 lakh originally. Current market price is 30. Okay. So with this data we can find out what is the market capitalization pre-write, which was 1 million into 13, which is 13 million or 130 lakhs. how many shares are we going to issue? So based on this ratio, we decided 1 share for 2 shares, so 5 lakh and 2,50,000. How much amount we have to raise? This is given in the question. So based on that, we can find out what should be the issue price of new share. So issue price here should be 4, issue price should be 8, because we want to raise 20 lakhs divided by 5, 4, and 20 lakhs divided by 2.5, 8. Now what will happen post right? So here originally your market capitalization was 13 million. Now we've raised another 2 million, which means total market capitalization is 15 million here. Following this, or 150 lakhs. क्या आ रहा है समझ में? So this becomes your total market cap. How many shares you have post this? पहले आपके पास 10 लाख शेयर थे, फिर आपने 5 लाख इशू किए, so total number of shares 15. पहले 10 लाख shares थे, you issued 2.5 lakhs, total number of shares 12.5. Then the post capitalization, post right market cap of 150 lakhs divided by number of shares, which is 15 lakhs, value of share post right would be 10. And here 150 divided by 12.5, value of share would be 12. So now see, once you're okay with this point, that shareholder will get to buy this share at a price of 4. But value of that share after the acquisition is going to be 10. That means the right that he's got, that is worth 6 rupee. And the right that he's got here is worth 4 rupees. Are you clear with this? So you're buying that new share for how much? 4 rupees. But that share right after buying back is going to be worth how much? 10. So you're buying at a cheaper price of 6. Again same, 8, 12, 4. Now once you've done this, how does the shareholders wealth change from 1 to 2? So the answer would be that shareholders wealth does not change because of right issue. Okay, so the answer to part C, that the shareholders wealth does not change. Shareholders wealth does not change with right issue. Okay, so on the exam you can stop here, but for our understanding we'll do a further extension to this question. Okay, so say let's assume that a shareholder had 100 shares. लिखो इसके नीचे. You don't have to do this part in the exam unless otherwise specifically asked. Let's assume a shareholder originally had 100 shares. Okay. So now you can again make this table with me. Here. Particulars pre-right issue, then 1 okay, so we have particulars pre-right issue, 1 share for 2 shares and 1 share for 4 shares. This is a scenario. Now see what happens to begin with. Number 1, number of shares held. pre-write. Number of shares held pre-write. So we've assumed that to be 100, 100 and 100. Number of shares issued during or with right issue. Number of shares issued with right issue. So here we had 1 for 2 and 1 for 4. That means number of shares here would be 50. Sorry, not 50 here. 50 here, and number of shares would be 25 here. Let's try to fit this in one screen. Are you following what's happening? Okay. Then here, value of share pre-right issue. This was given as 13. This was given as 13. This is given as 13. Okay. So I'll say value of holding. In this case, we will simply say 100 into 13, which is 1300. Value of share post-write. Okay, so in post-write, in this scenario, value of share was 10 and value of share was 12. Value of share post-write is 10, value of share post-write is 12. So, and value of write. And value of write we calculated in the earlier case to be 6 and 4. So this is 6 and this is 4. So total value of shares, here is 10 multiplied with number of shares, value of rights would be 50 multiplied with 6. We'll say total wealth. We're gonna do the same thing here itself for comparison. Following, how is it happening? See, what's happened here is, if you had 100 shares originally, at 13 rupees a share, your wealth was 1300. What happened after that, that you still have 100 shares, but now price of that share has only become 10. So the value of shares that you have now is here, which is 1000. 100 rupee, price becomes 10, value of share 100,000. But what you got in return is 50 rights to buy share at a cheaper price, and that right was worth 6. So if you take total of these two, your total wealth is 1300. Same logic here, you had 100 shares, it is now worth 12 rupees a piece, so valuation 1200, but you have 25 rights which is worth 4 a piece, so that is worth 100. Again your total wealth is same, 1300. Is it clear? Should we move on? Next question. Question should be okay. We have to do one more question on buyback. Let's solve sixth. Value of firm using approach. Now let's first understand what is this MM. It's called Modigliani and Miller approach. Okay. So have we studied about Modigliani in the past? Have we studied anything? What did we do? Yeah, of course, you people have studied this at IPCC. In finals in this program, we've done one formula by Modigliani. Which one was that? M square, yaad hai? M squared. There's an M squared formula we studied in portfolio management. What was M squared? It was a formula which was created by Franco Modigliani, okay, who is this gentleman, and his granddaughter Leigh Modigliani. Okay, so this is now Modigliani and Miller. Both of these were economists, and these gentlemen have created very strong, not strong, but a very popular base as theory of finance, and they have come up with different theories under different set of assumptions. So what we need to know here is their dividend irrelevance theory. Okay, so they again come up with a very strong set of assumptions in this. But see what they basically says. It says that a share, think of it as a piece of cake, and if you just remove, let's say, one portion out of it, then what you're left with is this. You're left with this shape here, and then you would have a separate piece of cake. So this plus this is same as what we had originally in the form of an entire round circle. Okay, so the same analogy is used for pricing a stock. So stock currently is 100 rupee. Okay, so if you have 100 rupees with you, then this is one share. Or if the stock gives you dividend, then stock will be 80 and you will have 20 with you. This is the value of stock. It's going to remain same. That means it does not matter how much firm pays in the form of dividend, the wealth of the shareholder is going to remain same. Are you following what I'm saying? And of course it does not make in real sense, because he's not really comparing what model did we saw yesterday? What Walter saw. What did Walter say? Yes, what did Walter say? Walter said that compare ROE with R. That if your ROE is higher, it makes sense not to pay any dividend. If your R is higher, it makes sense to pay entire 100% dividend. What Modigliani is saying here, he's saying that ROE and R is going to be same, which is again a theoretical assumption which doesn't make sense. That not necessary that you would earn what your shareholders expect you to earn. You might earn more, you might earn less. So in this approach, value of stock at time 0 would be simply the value of stock at time 1 plus dividend at time 1 divided by 1 plus KE. For example, if after 1 year you expect that stock price would be, let's say, 108 rupees and it will give you a dividend of 2 rupees, then that value of stock today, let's assume a KE of 10%. So it would be 1 plus 10%. The stock would be worth 100 rupees today. Because what assumption he's used is, if you have a stock of 100 and if the required rate of return is 10%, by the end of the year it should generate wealth of 110. So this 110 here is divided into two parts, 8 in the form of capital appreciation and 2 in the form of dividend. If it's 106 plus 4, the answer is same. If it's 102 plus 8, the answer is same. That means it does not matter how much dividend you pay. Are we clear with this? So this is the typical format in which you can expect the question on the exam. Let's read through this carefully. ABC Limited has 50,000 outstanding shares. The current market price per share is rupees 100 each. It hopes to make net income of 5 lakh at the end of current year. The company's board is considering a dividend of rupees 5 per share at the end of current financial year. The company needs to raise 10 lakh for approved investment expenditure. The company belongs to a risk class for which capitalization rate is 10%. Show how does approach affect the value of firm if the dividends are paid or not paid. Yes. How should we solve this? Excuse me. How can this be solved?
वैल्यू कैलकुलेट करना है दोनों ऑप्शंस में. एक ऑप्शन में अगर मैं डिविडेंड पे करता हूँ तो मेरे पास उतना अर्निंग्स नहीं होगा. सेकंड ऑप्शन में अगर मैं पे करता हूँ तो पे नहीं करता हूँ तो अर्निंग्स होगा. तो that earnings will be calculated for will be considered for calculating the value of firm. In that case we can calculate the value of firm using the number of share capital plus earnings divided by number of shares.
Okay. ठीक है. You solve the first one. I have two similar questions. Then you can. I'll solve the first one for you. You can solve the next one. Say n into P0 is equal to n into D1 plus n plus m into P1 minus m into P1 divided by 1 plus KE. N is the number of shares outstanding at the beginning. Number of shares outstanding at the beginning. M, number of shares issued during the year. Number of shares issued during the year. P1 is the price of stock at the end of the year. D1 is dividend paid at the end of the year. And KE is cost of equity. And if you would see, it's the same formula what we saw earlier, that P0 is equal to D1 plus P1 by 1 plus KE. Why is the same formula? We are just doing it on a total basis, multiplying both the sides with n. So n into D1, that means how many shares I had at the beginning of the year. So number of shares I had at the beginning of the year into D1 is the total amount of dividend paid. Total number of shares I have at the end of the year, which is N plus M into P1 minus M into P1, which effectively means this is nothing but N into P1, total number of shares into value of the stock at the end of the year, divided by 1 plus K. So if I solve for this formula, it is again nothing but P0 is equal to D1 plus P1 divided by 1 plus K. What formula we saw earlier. Are you following what I'm saying?
So last M minus P1
क्या कह रहे हो?
M minus P1.
M minus P1 मतलब अपने उतने नए shares issue किए है ना? So if you've issued those many new shares, then that's not the wealth of the shareholder today. That is the wealth that you're going to bring from outside. देखो फॉर्मूला क्या था आपका? प्राइस एट टाइम 0 क्या होगा कि जो भी आपका प्राइस टाइम 1 पे होने वाला है प्लस जो भी आपको डिविडेंड मिलने वाला है डिस्काउंटेड बैकवर्ड्स. करेक्ट? सो इफ यू विल सी दिस नाउ, इफ आई मल्टीप्लाई दिस विथ n, this would be n, this would be n, correct? np1 plus nd1. So this is the first term, and if you will solve for this term here, n plus m into p1 minus m into p1, this is nothing but again nd1, sorry, np1, and then divided by 1 plus k. So it's the same formula. Is it okay, Niranjan? Following this?
M and M bar are equal.
No, that's not m bar, that was m. ये ना यहाँ पे m bar दिख रहा है. It was m. M, simple m. Are we good to move? So let's make a table again. Here we will say particulars then first scenario where we will say dividend of ₹5 per share. Second scenario, no dividend. Number of shares outstanding, at the beginning. So this number of shares outstanding at the beginning, we are calling it as N, and these shares are 50,000 in all the two cases, 50,000 and 50,000 here. Current market price per share 100 and 100. Current value of firm $5 million in both the cases, 50 lakhs. Okay, so what we want to prove is that even if company pays dividend or does not pay dividend, using Modigliani-Miller formula, your answer should be same. जो हमारा formula है, in that case when we calculate, the answer should again come out to be 5 million in each of the cases. Then we've done it right. Okay, so let's try doing it. Total earnings. Total earnings are given as 5 lakh. dividend per share. Dividend per share in the first case is 5, in the second case is 0. Total dividends 5 into number of shares, this is 0. Retained earnings. Retained earnings would be 5 lakh minus 2,50,000, and this is 5 lakhs. आ रहा है समझ में? Kulbhushan? Once you have retained earnings, then investment required. Okay, so we have expected value of investment, which is 10 lakhs and 10 lakhs in both the cases. Investment required 10 lakh and 10 lakh. Once you have value of investment required, then new equity to be raised. So new equity to be raised is how much? This minus the amount of retained earnings, 7.5 lakh and 5 lakhs. Price of share at T1. What would be the price of share at T1? Now see this carefully. Price at time 0 is equal to P1 plus D1 divided by 1 plus KE. P1 is equal to P0 into 1 plus KE minus D1. Clear? So we are going to use the same logic here. So इसको हम लोग कहेंगे टाइम 1 और इसका नाम होगा P1. So which would be calculated as P1 is equal to P0 into 1 plus KE minus D1. Cost of equity was given as 10%. So 100 into 1.1 minus 5, and this would be 110. Now the final case, number of new shares to be issued. M. And new shares to be issued would be total equity raised divided by price at time 1, 7142 and 4545.45. Total number of shares at year end, which is M plus N. Number of shares that you had at the beginning plus number of shares that we have at the end, 7142. When we wrote your formula, what did we write for M? We'll try to maintain the consistency. M and N was the beginning. ठीक है. So these are the number of shares that we have now. ठीक है. And then simply value of firm as per approach. Value of firm as per approach. This is where you have to write down the formula, that M into P0 is equal to that formula that we had written originally. So rewrite that formula again, is equal to N plus M into P1 plus M into D1 minus, what do we have at the beginning?
N into P0.
Beginning we have N, so N into P0 is equal to N into D1 minus M into P1, and the whole thing divided by, so divided by only the right hand side of the equation, divided by 1 plus KE. आ रहा समझ में? So let's calculate the value of firm using this approach. 57,142 into price at time 105 plus total amount of dividend, which was 2,50,000, minus, so this is plus total amount of dividend 2,50,000 minus value raised by issuing new shares 7,50,000, and the whole number in bracket divided by 1.1. Same. So you have to write down the whole formula. I mean, write how that is solved. Hmm. Is it done, Neha? Do you want me to write down individual amounts? सिर्फ यही एक अमाउंट अलग है आपका. सी ND1 आपके पास है टोटल डिविडेंड जो यहाँ पे है 2.5 लाख. सॉरी, टोटल डिविडेंड जो यहाँ पे है 2.5 lakhs. और आपके पास P1 भी है. P1 in any case has to be, in this case 7.5 lakh, in this case 5 lakhs. आ रहा है समझ में? So total value raised minus plus dividend minus new value of equity. Now you following the trick, what's happening here? Are you done writing this? Finish writing, then we will discuss.
आपने जो फॉर्मूला लिखा था वहाँ पे मतलब बोला कि मल्टीप्लाई करना है तो
हाँ.
वहाँ पे P1 minus P0 चाहिए प्राइस एप्रिसिएशन
नहीं, P0 क्यों? नहीं, जो सबसे पहले
यहाँ पे P1 divided by 1 plus P. That should be
हाँ.
return is equal to capital appreciation plus dividend.
करेक्ट. सो हम लोग रिटर्न नहीं निकाल रहे हैं, हम लोग स्टॉक की प्राइस निकाल रहे हैं.
हाँ राइट, मतलब फॉर्मूला लेने के लिए वही लेना पड़ेगा ना.
नहीं, सी जैसे had we, if you wanted to know by what percent stock will grow, then we would have done it differently, but anyways we know that return has to be 10%. यहाँ पे let me do it here. देखो, the whole question he's actually taking you through the same concept. Okay, let's say your stock is currently 100. What he's telling you is that if the capitalization is 10%, after 1 year your wealth has to be 110. Okay, now how do you get that wealth? It's your problem. So 100 is equal to 110 divided by 1.1. Is this correct? Now it does not matter how do you write this 110. So you can say 100 plus 10, or you can say 105 plus 5, or 107 plus 3. So 7 is capital appreciation, 3 is dividend. 5 is capital appreciation, 5 is dividend. No capital appreciation, 10 is dividend. Following this, so if you observe this formula carefully, NP0, that means number of shares at the beginning into price of the stock in the beginning. So in fact, other way around, P0 is equal to P1. Let me put here. P0 is equal to D1 into P1 divided by 1 plus K. This is the formula. If I multiply both the sides with N, this will be ND1 and NP1. सही है? Numerator multiplied on both the sides. Now instead of writing NP1 here, this term has been extended further by saying M plus N into P1 minus M into P1, which is again nothing but NP1. So what did he do there? That first we appreciated the value of stock and we made this 105, right? So these n plus n number of shares, n plus m, 57, we've multiplied with 105. But then again we've deducted 105 with multiplied with 7142 in the last term here. आ रहा है समझ में? पहले 57,000 से 105 को मल्टीप्लाई किया और उसमें से 7,000 माइनस 105 किया, which means effectively it was 50,000 into 105, and to which we also added 50,000 into 5, which is dividend. So which means we've just said 105 plus 5 divided by 1.1. That's what the whole formula is. Are we good to move? It's just that the presentation is important here, so you should be able to present it in a neat fashion. This particular case. Yes. Now try solving question number 7 on your own. बिगिनिंग को हम लोग m बोल रहे हैं, m. I should have kept that in alphabetical order. Total number of shares issued at the beginning. Which ones? ये दिया है. हाँ, it's a part of the question. They're expecting 1.6 crores as earnings. There are too many zeros. This is given here. 1.6 crores is the earnings and 3.2 crores is the investment. Yes, ask questions please. Is it tallying? No? कहाँ पे गलत जा रहा है? लास्ट तक आ गया? You can do your calculations in lakhs. Okay, so this is 121 million, which is 12.16 lakhs. So see how you can do this is 1212.16 plus dividend कितना था हमारा? This is 5.12. That means 51 lakhs 20,000. So 51.20 minus नया इक्विटी कितना रेस किया है? 2112. So this is 21 million. So 211.20 divided by 1.096. अब करके दिखवाता है क्यों? 1212.16 plus 51.20 minus 211.20 divided by 1.096. कितना आ रहा? 96 आ रहा?
95.9.
हाँ 96. So we've ignored few fractions. Yes, is it done?